What's up, y'all? The teams from the Pokemon World Championship just released earlier this morning, and I wanted to go over them. There's a lot of very crazy combinations here, but just to give you guys an overview, if you're not aware of the world structure this year, essentially it's instead of a day one, day two split, day one and day two are pretty connected. So essentially at the end of the 2 days of competition, there will be 11 rounds in total. The people in day one who go 6-2 or better progress to the second day to finish out their last 3 rounds of Swiss, and the people who go 9-2 or better proceed to an asymmetric top cut. So essentially there will be some buys for the upper seeds. It'll be around 20 to 22 players. So some people will be playing out a top 32 set for top 16, which is actually where the money is. You win $5,000 if you win that set. And then it progresses, you win a little bit more and a little bit more prestige. Every win, and the players that are 8-0 now just need to win one more. The people who are 7-1 need to make 2 wins, and then the last people need to go undefeated in the last 3 Swiss rounds to make the day 2 cut. So definitely a huge advantage for these 8-0 players, but there's a lot of very crazy teams. I thought I would go over them. Starting off, we have Diego Ferreira. I believe he was one of Australia's buy players, finishing in top 4 championship points there. It's a very wild Trick Room team, very dedicated, has a Gallade, Indeedee, and Calyrex that can all set up Trick Room. I think the thing of note that I see is the Imprison Calyrex Ice Rider. So essentially, you can imagine Calyrex Ice Rider being solid into Ursaluna if you're Terra Fire, being really good into the Torkoal as well. But the Calyrex Ice Rider with the Imprison just lets you make sure that they can't go for Trick Room, reversing your own Trick Room. They can't go for Glacial Lance or High Horsepower as offensive options. So most of the time, the only thing they'll be able to go for is Protect, which is not excellent. You do need to be making progress against Trick Room teams, so very interesting team there. Not even mentioning the Gallade, which is really strong in Psychic Terrain with the Sharpness Psycho Cuts, and the Sacred Sword. So cool team from Diego. All he needs to do is win one more round in the final day of competition to progress to the top cut. Next up is Hirofumi Kimura, which at a glance, it looks like it's a pretty standard Calyrex Ice Rider team, and it is, but there's a lot of very interesting text. So this Terra Electric Raging Bolt with Life Orb is something that's been popping up. It's a little more maneuverable than the Booster Energy Raging Bolt that you can't lead and switch out as effectively because you'll lose the power boost. The Life Orb will give you the same power boost at the expense of your HP every turn, while still offering the ability to switch in and out and maintain that power. The Terra Electric, Life Orb, Thunderbolts, and Thunderclaps in particular are just really difficult to deal with. Beyond that, Chi-Yu, Ogerpon, Fluttermane, pretty interesting. This is really more reminiscent of a Terapagos team. Like this core was really popular early on, but using this special typing attacking core with the Fluttermane Chi-Yu to catch some people by surprise that are expecting the Calyrex Ice Rider teams to be primarily physical as they have been in the past. And then this Nevermelt Ice Calyrex really calling out the lack of Incineroar usage, or just saying, okay, I can handle it fine with Ogerpon, Urshifu, and Raging Bolt. But I think this is largely a call out that a couple different building groups did where they were like, okay, Incineroar usage has been trending downward except for on a couple of teams. So let's just boost up our power in the matchups where Incineroar isn't there, and we'll deal with it when we do see an Incineroar with the rest of the team, which is a cool strategy. There's a couple other teams that followed that same lead lower down in the cut. So going into Wolf's team, it's not that interesting, but yeah, he is the final 8-0, so definitely want to go over him. He is just 1 win away from making the top cut. He definitely going to want to go for the 3-0 to guarantee the bye and make the top 16 without having played the top 32, but beyond that, the team is fairly, it's not that standard. It has a lot of standard Pokemon, but a lot of strained sets. Throat Spray for a Graph is a favorite of Wolf's, but not that common. Raging Bolt, Terra Fairy, Booster Energy is common, but usually we see Draco Meteor over Dragon Pulse going for a bit more accuracy and consistency over a couple of turns rather than Draco Meteor. Incineroar with Helping Hand, definitely not common, but very strong at Calyrex Shadow Rider teams. When you get the Nasty Plot up, the Helping Hand boost just goes so far in taking some knockouts that would probably not be there to just guaranteeing them with the Helping Hand, so that's pretty cool. Then the Terra Water is basically to do really well into Urshifu, trying to lock into a Surging Strikes late game versus you, as well as resist Glacial Lance from Calyrex Ice Rider. And then occasionally, I guess you can be taking less damage from a Koraidon's Flare Blitz. But overall, don't want to linger here too long. I'm sure we'll see more of Wolf in the second day and probably in the top cut. Chen Yuzhang brought this Miraidon Dondozo team. So Dondozo had a bit of a resurgence at this World. Definitely saw a bit more usage than we saw earlier in the format. This is a team I saw on ladder before. I think it was doing pretty well online. With some changes, we see the Dragonite being multi-scale. Again, indexing against the lack of Incineroar, essentially saying, okay, there's no Incineroar, let's just get a little bit more bulk out of our Dragonite on the first hit, which is definitely a smart call. Beyond that, pretty standard Dondozo team. The Chi-Yu boosting up the Spectacle Dango and Miraidon's damage output, and then the Dondozo Terra Grass to handle Amoonguss a little bit better, and just not be put asleep and make the best of your turns. Next up is this Regieleki team, which honestly feels a little outdated, but I think Navjeet just played really well with it. To make the second day of competition at 7-1, this team was around for North American Internet, so just counting on experience to carry Najit far in the tournament, and it definitely paid off here. The Japanese national champion, Humahara, goes by Anya Online, brought a pretty standard looking team, at least in the Pokemon we see here, but I do want to point out some things. Substitute Calm Mind are really good against something like an Amoonguss where they can't spore you. You can get a lot of turns out of that, especially with leftovers. Plus, Grassy Surge, after 2 turns, you get the health 100% back, so if you're essentially going for Substitute, Grassy Terrain and leftovers activate, you're at 88%. You go for Protect, you're back up to full with the Substitute and Terra Shift active, so that's really hard to break the Substitute. Beyond that, Rocky Helmet and Incineroar has been picking up a lot, so you have the Substitute to kind of disrespect Amoonguss. You have a lot of options like the Ogre Pawn, the Rillaboom to ignore it otherwise. You get rid of the safety goggles in favor of something that handles the most common counter to Incineroar in the metagame, namely Urshifu Surging Strike, so they have to commit a close combat into you if they don't want to take half their HP for a knockout, so that is a cool option there. Not a lot to comment on for these teams. We do have the Focus Sash Ditto that I was mentioning as being potentially strong on the Groudon teams. Coming into Worlds, we do see that come to fruition here. The highest ranking Zamazenta player used a team very reminiscent of the Rain, Calyrex, Ice Rider teams we've seen earlier in the season, but yeah, essentially just using the Zamazenta's strength to really just pressure Pokemon with the Sword of Ruin active, and then having the secondary offensive mode of the Pelipper, Urshifu, and then Raging Bolt as general strength, and Amoonguss to go for Spores and buy you turns. Grant Weldon went 7-1 with the team that he has been rocking pretty much all year, at least variants of it. It is a very dedicated Tailwind offense team with a Zacian running Terra Ground Terra Blast, basically to just outspeed and knock out Miraidons, and most of them are either Terra Electric, so you knock them out with Terra Blast without having to risk anything, or Terra Fairy, where you can just protect, stall for a turn, see if they go for Terra Fairy, and then knock them out with Behemoth Blade the next turn. The most interesting Pokemon on the team is actually Regidrago, and that's saying something because we do have a Ditto here, but yeah, the Ditto's option is just Choice Scarf, copy any Calyrex Shadow Rider, and then go for Terra Normal. They can no longer hit you at all, unless they go for like a Draining Kiss or a Psychic, which would be annoying. It's definitely more effective against the Draining Kiss ones, but yeah, it's just a strong Pokemon to reverse sweep a Calyrex. And then Regidrago with the Whimsicott is particularly strong into Calyrex Ice Rider in my opinion. Just really hard for those teams to deal with the massive onslaught of damage the Dragon Energy from the Life Orb is doing, especially when you can just like Encore anything that tries to protect while they reposition, or they try and hit you with Fake Out, you go for Terra Go. So it's a difficult team to play against, especially with a player like Grant who has been using similar stuff all year. He's definitely going to have the experience advantage over you when you're playing against it. Michael Kelsch had an interesting take on Zamazenta here with a Choice Band Entei. He's definitely favored that in the past, but yeah, just very strong with Terra Normal. Extreme Speed with the Chien-Pao boosting all the damage on the team except for the Fluttermane, who's there more as a support Pokemon, but yeah, very strong team. King Campbell at 7-1 with the Zacian team. Another Zacian team, very different variant, running Terra Fairy Swords Dance, so using the defensive properties of the Terra Fairy, getting rid of your fire and ground weakness, as well as the offensive properties of making your +1 play rough deal crazy damage after you get the Swords Dance. That's knocking out pretty much anything, especially with Sword of Ruin active. This is a team that Kian has been on since Los Angeles Regionals, maybe a bit of changes here and there, but yeah, definitely a player, once again, who's just relying on being more experienced against you than you are against him. Daniel Yu using a team that was pretty popular online. It's a very offensive team with Assault Vest Kyogre and then 3 Rain Sweepers and Urshifu and Basculegion, going for very strong water type moves, and then last respects in the Basculegion case. We have Landorus because with all those water types, you're a little weak to Miraidon, so you can go for Choice Scarf Sandsear Storm to knock that out in one hit, or potentially Sludge Bomb if they go for Terra Fairy. So lots of really cool options on the team, and the Serena is to stop any Grassy Glide damage into your Pokemon without needing to commit to a Terra Grass to resist it. So overall well-built team. It's something we've been familiar with, but not necessarily something that people were preparing for into Worlds. So now we see this Terrapagos team. I believe this is the highest ranking finish for Smeargle. It's funny they're right next to each other. I believe Junji and Sebastian were on the same building group with Nails and Aurelian, and possibly some others on the ChoiceBex Terrapagos teams. It's really interesting. They basically dropped the Chi-Yu, which a lot of people thought were very strong with it, in favor of the Smeargle as a damage boosting option with Decorate. You also have Quick Guard to stop any fake outs from interrupting your onslaught of damage. Spore, Follow Me, just a great supporter. But just looking at the team, there's a lot of support options. Like we have 2 Follow Me Pokemon, we have a Taunt, Scary Face Tornadus, plus Tailwind for double speed control, Thunderwave on the Klefki for speed control, double screens, and then another fake out, or just 1 fake out on the Iron Hands, as well as being a defensive Pokemon. So there's a lot of eggs in the Terrapagos basket here, so I can see why it was able to go so far. You know, a lot of people were not respecting Terrapagos coming into this tournament. I think I ranked it like B tier under Kyogre, but I believe it was only 2 usage points below Salmazenta in this tour and making day 2, so one of the strongest Pokemon in the tournament. Mostly on the Calm Mind sets, but this Klefki set with the Terapagos and the Smeargle definitely able to go very far. Excited to see how it does in the next day of competition. All the 7-1 players need to only win 2 sets tomorrow, or at least in day 2 overall, so definitely a high likelihood of seeing this Smeargle and Klefki team take it to the top cut of Worlds. In 23rd place, 7-1, we have the highest finishing Lunala in the first day of the competition. So it's like I was mentioning before the tournament, the Terra Fairy Calm Mind set seemed to be a little bit more popular than the Meteor Beam set, and that does prove to be the case here with a lot of support options. We have a Farigiraf to basically roar out any Trick Room Pokemon, or even just reverse Trick Room yourself. We have Grassy Seed to essentially get the defense boost, similar to the Electric Seed that Rhydon teams. The Farigiraf is just going to be your hard Calyrex Ice Rider counter. Outside of that, it is just a very balanced core with Fire, Water, Grass, just trying to outplay your opponents and get your Lunala into strong positions with Calm Mind, and then win in the late game. The leftovers combination with Grassy Surge, getting the Shadow Shield back up pretty consistently, similar to the Terapagos with leftovers. It's going to be very easy to get your Shadow Shield back up and active many times in a game, and that's going to be really difficult for your opponents to handle. Yuta Ishigaki had an interesting team. Essentially, we see another Choice Scarf Landorus. Definitely a lot of people noticing how much work it was able to do on Henry Rich's Nationals team, or an NAIC team, with the Terragos to ignore Fake Out and then just knock out an Incin with Earth Power. Sludge Bomb for something like a Rillaboom trying to fake you out. So very cool there. Also deals with Miraidon, which Calyrex Ice Rider can be put into kind of awkward positions with or against. So that's a cool option. And then we have the Iron Valiant, which is a lot of roll compression. We have Encore if people try and fake out lock you, and you can go for Terra Ghost to stop that. We have Coaching to boost up the Calyrex Ice Rider's damage output. Spirit Break is an offensive option with the booster energy speed. You can outspeed a Miraidon, hit that very hard, or even just Spirit Break a Calyrex Shadow Rider to minimize its damage before you attack if you don't feel like going for Wide Guard that turn. And as I mentioned, Wide Guard going to be very effective against all these spread type moves in the format, like Kyogre's Origin Pulse, Water Spout, other Calyrex Glacial Lances, and Astral Barrages. So a very cool team, does a lot of the strengths of old Calyrex Ice Rider Rain teams with the Amoonguss Calyrex, Pelipper Urshifu, and then adds on some new folds here with the Valiant and Landorus. Just to Nox, the final 7-1 player, so yeah, he just needs to win 2 more to make the top cut of Worlds. With the Weezing Dondozo team that we saw on ladder, some variations, namely the Droopy Tatsugiri, so when you order up, you actually get a defense boost comboed with Body Press. Beyond that, we have the Indeedee with the Psychic Surge in combination with the Calyrex Ice Rider's Expanding Force with Life Orb, Terra Normal to not have to worry about going for Speed Ties in the mirror. Haven't even mentioned the Weezing, which can neutralize abilities with the Neutralizing Gas, as well as set up the Toxic Spikes and the Poison Gas to poison all the Pokemon on your opponent's team. So it's a team we knew a lot about coming into the tour, but I think the Body Press definitely separates it from what we were expecting before, and I think it was oftentimes Choice Specs Calyrex Ice Rider going for a little bit more flexibility with the Life Orb on Justin's team here. Adam Cherfao running a pretty standard Calyrex Shadow Rider team, except for the Roaring Moon, which is kind of the mirror breaker for you. If you're playing against a non-Draining Kiss Calyrex Shadow Rider, which a lot of them have been moving towards, you can completely wall their Psychic type moves with your Dark typing, and they need to spend turns going for Nasty Plot to actually deal a lot of damage to you with Astral Barrage, which is time for you to set up Tailwind, go for knockoffs, chip things on the opposing team, so it's a cool mirror breaker on this team. Way here, I believe the Taiwan national champion, I could be wrong about that, but essentially running Low Kick Iron Hands. I did mention that being a very strong option for the Pokemon coming into Worlds, hitting Calyrex Ice Rider for 120 base power without the drawbacks of close combat, and being a solid 2-hit KO with the Quark Drive boost. Definitely something to watch out for. We did see Sejun running Low Kick as well, just mono Low Kick on the Iron Hands, essentially the Iron Feet. So a strong move choice to be looking for in the rest of the tour. Nils Dunlop, another Calyrex Ice Rider player, dropping the Incineroar for Iron Hands or another supporting Pokemon. Some people have done Rillaboom instead of the Incineroar as a fake out Pokemon, but yeah, just a very strong team. The Regidrago as a alternative damage dealer in Trick Room. We have 2 options to go for Trick Room, so if the Calyrex can only get it up, but it can't carry the team offensively, you do have the Iron Hands and the Regidrago to do that. Now we have Riley Factura's team, which is kind of off the beaten path for sure. It has a Expert Belt Iron Crown with, I believe, Quark Drive boosting speed, so you can go for a Terra Ground Terra Blast to knock out a opposing Miraidon, or a Tachyon Cutter for a knockout if they have gone for Terra Fairy. So very cool option there, aside from that, pretty standard, aside from the Ursaluna, which could be a Trick Room counter, essentially going for a substitute against a more passive Trick Room lead, and then you just can underspeed other Calyrex in Trick Room and hit them with Facade or Headlong Rush. Takahiro Nakata with, again, another Calyrex Ice Rider team that has an alternative Trick Room sweeper, this time in the Torkoal, which can go for Helping Hand to support the Calyrex, but also has the very strong Charcoal Terrifier Eruptions. It's kind of interesting that they have the Rapid Strike Urshifu with the same team with the Torkoal, but they also have the Fluttermane with Terra Fairy and Life Orb to abuse the photosynthesis and essentially serve as a alternative Miraidon counter. Just going for Terra Fairy Moonblast into them with the speed boost from photosynthesis should be a knockout. So lots of cool options on this team, even though there is some anti-synergy between the Torkoal and the Urshifu. Next up, we have Ferdinando Vincenti with one of the only Groudon teams in day 2. There are a couple others, believe it or not, more interesting than this one. The bulk up set, pretty standard on the Groudon, but the Hariyama is definitely where things get interesting. It is Rocky Helmet with Thick Fat, so with Thick Fat, it will resist the Glacial Lances from Calyrex Ice Rider. You're not an electric type like normal Iron Hands is, so high horsepower isn't super effective into you, so going to be very hard for those teams to clear out the Hariyama, and Groudon typically can struggle a little bit against Calyrex Ice Rider teams, so that's a nice addition. Knock off Close Combat, Fake Out Wide Guard, just solid options, so yeah, crazy. I don't think anyone would have expected Hariyama to make it to day 2 at Worlds this year, but here it is, 6-2, with the potential to go into the top cut if they win 3-0. So that's going to be true of all these 6-2s I forgot to mention. Anyone who goes 3-0 in the day 2 of this tournament will make the final stage of competition and play it out for top 16. Lorenzo Arce with, I believe, the highest finishing Wo Chen team, so very similar to the team that Xilang Tang got top 8 at NAIC with, the same Grimmsnarl, Wo Chen, Kyogre, and Incineroar defensive core, but instead of a Scarf Urshifu as an offensive breaker, you have the Landorus, which can be really good, as mentioned in the Miraidon, and then Goldengo, which can be solid into Calyrex Shadow Rider teams with the Terra Normal, as well as into Calyrex Ice Rider teams with just Nasty Plot, Metal Coat, Make It Rain, dealing a ton of damage. So cool team. I think a lot of these teams can be a little weak to Amoonguss, with the Grimmsnarl and the Kyogre being forced to Terra. Pollen Puff doing a lot to Wo Chen, so I do like the addition of Goldengo to be a hard stop to Amoonguss there. Brian Collins with a very interesting Lunala team, one of the other players with Lunala in the tournament, as well as an Okidogi. I think probably the only other person in the tour with that. Okidogi really breaks down the balance cores. Essentially, the Guard Dog gives you a boost against Intimidate from Incineroar. You can knock it out, or at least get very close to a KO with Drain Punch, Gunk Shot, knocking out Rillaboom. You can knock off a Calyrex Shadow Rider, so force them to Terra, and then if they're Terra Normal or Terra Dark, you can Drain Punch them. If they go for Terra Fairy, you can Gunk Shot them. So very cool, as well as having upper hand to block any priority moves. So it's a very good utility set. I know Alex Underhill was experimenting with this team on stream a little bit, so it was known about, but a lot of people didn't have it as like a top priority team to be focusing in on for Worlds. The Lunala is Power Herb, Meteor Beam to knock out Incineroar, and then beyond that at the +1 with the Expanding Forces and Psychic Surge, you're doing crazy damage, especially if you go for Helping Hand. So very threatening team, can alternate between Tailwind and Trick Room very effectively. A lot of very offensive options on the team that really allow Brian to take advantage of his skill to just blow you up turn 1 with a very volatile mix-up. Now we have a team that Xilang Tang and his building group are working very hard on. This is Yuchan Wu, William the Shy on Twitter. Definitely give him a follow, up-and-coming player. So made day 2 here at 6-2 with the really interesting Calyrex Ice Rider team. It does have the same rain elements we're used to seeing in Incineroar, but now we have the Landorus with the Choice Scarf to deal with the Miraidons, and really interestingly, a Loaded Dice Ogre Pawn with Bullet Seed. I did mention this in the preview. You can basically knock out a Focus Sash Urshifu with Bullet Seed. If there's Choice Scarf, you can go for a Terra Grass and get the Embody Aspect speed boost and knock it out that way as well before it can even move. And then against Fake Out cycling on the team, you can Encore those Pokemon if they try to do that. So very great utility. Again, focusing in on the strengths of the Calyrex Ice Rider while covering the weaknesses very well with the final 2. Then Oliver Eskelin running a Roaring Moon Kyogre team. It bears a lot of similarities to the Crystal Rain team that got number 1 on the Battle Stadium ladder, with the Leftovers Calm Mind Kyogre, healing a ton with the Grassy Terrain and the Leftovers. With the Calm Mind, you're just so bulky. The Amoonguss to protect it, Incineroar to apply Fake Out and Intimidate. And then the Urshifu as a bit more offensive of an option on the team. I think it had a Raging Bolt before, but Urshifu definitely applying a lot more immediate pressure, and then the Roaring Moon to set up Tailwind. After you've set up a Calm Mind, you can be very scary with a fast Kyogre at that point, as well as being strong into the Calyrex Shadow Riders, only running Psychic, which have been on the rise as mentioned previously. Alex Underhill running a similar composition to Nils, except the Blood Moon instead of the Regidrago. Beyond that, very similar aside from the item choices, a couple move choices and Terra types, but notably, again, the Nevermelt Ice Calyrex, just indexing into a metagame without Intimidate, which proved to be pretty effective. I think only 25 roughly % of the teams in day 2 have Incineroar. So definitely a meta call on low Incineroar usage with the Nevermelt Ice, which proved to be effective, making it into day 2. I believe Jody Azzarelli also had a similar team, and Burns was on the same comp as well. So I almost missed it and ended the video, but Daniel Walker had a crazy team that he day 2'd with, and it is a Kyogre team, but all the supporting Pokemon are very weird. We have the Indeedee as a Trick Room option with a Choice Scarf. Kyogre, kind of weird. Swords Dance Baxcalibur, which we have not seen any of this format. No Baxcalibur at all, let alone loaded dice Icicle Spear Scale Shot. It's an offensive option. You can Scale Shot to get a speed boost, and then sweep with the Swords Dance and Icicle Spear and more skill shots, but you are lowering your defense, so having the Entei to basically stop any Pokemon from going for priority against your lower defense is cool. And then we have Slowking as a Trick Room Pokemon to benefit from Rain, using Scald, and from the Psychic Terrain with Expanding Force. And then we have a Weezing with Assault Vest Explosion. Like only one of the Pokemon in the team can use Protect, so that's kind of crazy as well. Assurance to get good double ups in Trick Room, I guess, or after the Choice Scarf Water Spouts with the Terra Water. And then we have a Smeargle, which can go for Shed Tail into, I guess, Kyogre. That's kind of cool. You can go for Entei plus Shed Tail, or Spore, just set up for a future Shed Tail and then get the Kyogre in with a substitute, I believe. So yeah, really crazy team. Really impressed by the building effort here. Now we have probably the most interesting team in day 2. So the focus is the Gravity Sableye to allow the Groudon's Life Orb Precipice Blades to be hitting every time. You can also boost up the accuracy of your Heat Waves on Chi-Yu, your Fire Blast, so you're not going for Overheat. That's a cool addition. And then the Gravity allows the Sings to be, I believe, near 100% accurate. I'm not entirely sure if it is 100%. You can skill swap your own Groudon to reset Sun if a Kyogre comes in or something like that. You can also skill swap your Altaria after Gravity is up to give them priority Sings, which is going to be really difficult to deal with. Also priority Roost. So Altaria, a very interesting Pokemon here. Would never expected it to day 2 Worlds, yet here it is. Iron Crown popping up as another answer to the Rhydon matchup. Again, Terra Ground plus Tachyon Cutter, an excellent pin against both the Electric and Terra Fairy types that most of them Rhydon carry. Beyond that, a pretty standard team. Joshua Lorsey going deep in the tournament with Iron Leaves, which benefits from the Quark Drive on the Rhydon, dealing a lot of damage, and then the Psyblade, I think, deals increased damage in Electric Terrain. Terra Normal is going to be your option into Calyrex Shadow Rider because you don't on this team have the Farigiraf as a switch-in, so definitely need to be offering some options into that. And then oftentimes I think you're going to be using your Incineroar's knockoff to pressure a Terastallization from the Calyrex, which could be, and if that turns out to be the Terra Dark, which has been on the rise, then you can just Mega Hornet for a knockout, so cool synergy there. Didn't even notice until I looked a little deeper at the Iron Hands, it is an Electric Seed one with Drain Punch, Swords Dance, Thunder Punch, so a little bit more proactive of a win condition than the Assault Vest one usually is on these teams, but makes sense when you have the Incineroar as an alternative fake out Pokemon on this team. Roberto Parente back in day 2, I believe in 2022 it might have been, he went very deep with a Whimsicott Kyogre plus Calyrex Shadow Rider Specs team. So again, he has the Tailwind plus the Calyrex Shadow Rider. Regidrago functionally going to be his Kyogre here, going for even stronger Water Spouts with the Dragon Energy, Life Orb, Dragon Smaw damage boosting to absurd levels. You have an Entei with Follow Me to redirect attention, as well as allow the Astral Barrages to go off, and then a little bit more offensive redirection with the Ogerpon, and then a Scarf Urshifu to deal a ton of damage for the single target. Basically just cleaning anything up that these two barely leave with any HP. So strong team, definitely plays to his style. Glad to see him doing well with it in day 2. Tsubasa Kitoka, you might be looking at this and think, okay, yeah, we have a Calyrex Ice Rider. Nope, that is a Glastrier. With the Koraidon, Assault Vest, a lot of interesting choices on this team, but the Glastrier is essentially going to be your main answer against Calyrex Ice Rider teams. You can go for a Terra Water. I guess you're already resisting the Glacial Lances anyways, but this could let you resist a Urshifu Surging Strike, which makes a lot of sense when you are running Iron Defense Body Press as your main source of damage output. So really innovative answer to that matchup. So that's going to do it for our coverage of all the players in day 2 for the World Championship. A lot of interesting teams. Unfortunately, not going to be able to cover all the teams in the basically below the 6-2 record, but of course we did have Sejun Park bringing the Pachirisu back. But yeah, overall, I will leave the link in the description if you want to see other teams at the World Championship, including the ones like we see a Scraggy that almost made day 2 as well. So definitely a lot of cool teams that didn't make the final bracket, but worth checking out. So I'll have that in the description. If you guys enjoy these videos, please subscribe. Definitely a lot more Worlds content coming, as well as the Regulation H format, which will start after the World Championship, but definitely going to be playing a lot of that in combination with the Worlds teams after this weekend. So subscribe for that. If you enjoy the video, please like and give a comment about what your favorite tech for the World Championship was this year. And yeah, with all that being said, peace y'all.